She took me to the doctor where we found out I had scoliosis. I was sent for x-rays and we were told that I had a severe case of scoliosis and needed surgery right away. Within 3 months of my diagnosis, I was having surgery. My parents researched and found the best spine doctor, and I had my surgery in Minnesota at the Twin Cities Spine Center. My family and I prayed that everything would work out and my spine would be corrected. I never once questioned God about why I had to go through something so scary or why my spine was in the shape of an S. Overall, everything with my surgery turned out well, even though there were serious risks and running into complications during the 13-hour surgery. I ended up needing a blood transfusion from the amount of blood I lost, and my left lung collapsed, causing me to go into respiratory arrest. A few years later, I was diagnosed with what my doctor thought would be endometriosis. The only way they could diagnose this for sure was with surgery. Because of my previous surgery, I was afraid to have another one, so I said no. Through several emergency room visits and hospital stays and testing, I was told that it would be very unlikely for me to ever have kids of my own. I was urged to get a hysterectomy, and as a teenager, this broke my heart. I wanted kids in the future, and I knew in my heart I just needed to be a mom. I refused this surgery. Things continued to get worse. My family joked that I had my own room at the hospital on reserve because I was there so often. Finally, when I was 20, I decided to have the surgery to diagnose the endometriosis, where they would also cauterize it. During this surgery, I was told that not only did I have endometriosis, but it was one of the worst cases my doctors have seen. And not only was it on my uterus, but it covered every organ inside me that they could see. They were not able to cauterize at all. The surgery never helped and everything was just as bad after. A hysterectomy was again brought up and I refused it again. I knew in my heart that these doctors were wrong and that God would allow me to have kids someday. A couple years later and several more hospital visits, my doctor talked to me about trying a treatment that would induce menopause. This was supposed to act as a chemotherapy for the endometriosis, stop the growth, and hopefully kill it so that it would not come back. I agreed to try this once I made sure that it would not affect my chances of being able to have kids in the future. Of course, I was reminded that the odds of me having kids were very low and most likely impossible, which I ignored and told them they were wrong. Before starting the medication, my doctor wanted to go in and cauterize the endometriosis again to get rid of as much of it as she could so that the medication could work better. At this time, she also ran a dye test through my tubes to see if anything went through them. It didn't. Both of my tubes were so messed up that I was told if by chance I were to ever get pregnant, it would be stuck in my tubes. Once again, I just ignored them and told them to stop being so negative. Menopause was awful. I hated it and I hated the side effects from it. It was the worst 8 months of my life. I feel bad for my sister who was living with me at the time, and I'm sure she can tell you how awful it was.
It's horrible.
After the menopause was finished, it didn't take very long for me to realize that it was all for nothing. My endometriosis was back and just as bad as ever. Hysterectomy was again brought up and again refused. A few years later, at one of the many hospital visits, I was diagnosed with adenomyosis, which is where your uterus is full of tumors. The only cure for this is a hysterectomy. I cried and prayed a lot, but never once through this questioned God or my desire to have kids. Even though my mom and I saw these tumors on the ultrasound ourselves, I knew that this couldn't be it. I did not go through the past 10 years of constant pain and arguments with doctors about a hysterectomy to have it all mean nothing now. I knew in my heart that I would have kids, and I knew that God was bigger and better than all these doctors. I asked my entire family and everyone I knew to pray that this couldn't be it. I was sent for a pre-op MRI, even though I had not agreed to have the surgery yet. When we received the MRI results, I was told that there must have been a mistake with the ultrasound because I did not have adenomyosis at all. There was no longer any tumors in my uterus. I knew that there wasn't a mistake and that this was God answering my prayers. I knew I was right for trusting in God to take care of me, and I knew that I would not be getting a hysterectomy because my faith in God was bigger than any diagnosis. Everything continued the same. Several hospital visits and a lot of pains. One day while at work, I was having trouble breathing, which led to another hospital visit and a week-long stay. At this point, I was told that my endometriosis had spread to my lungs, causing the breathing issues. I was told by the hospital doctors that it just wasn't worth it for me to go through this and that I really needed to consider a hysterectomy. I told those doctors they were idiots and not to bring it up again. Thankfully, God had blessed me with a great primary doctor, an OBGYN, that was supportive of my decision not to have a hysterectomy from the beginning. She suggested, since I refused to do the induced menopause again, to take birth control continually and stop my cycle altogether. During this time, I started dating Paul again, who was a single dad. I was given the opportunity to act as a mom to a beautiful little girl, and I knew that God brought them to me for a reason. We all needed each other. Aubrey did not have a mother in her life at all. God gives people children in different ways, and I accepted that this was my way to become a mother, and I am very happy with it and thankful. I've been given the chance to adopt Aubrey, and we have a court date to finalize that this spring. Of course, it didn't take long for Aubrey to start asking for siblings. She wanted a brother so that she wouldn't have to share her toys. Paul and I decided that we were going to start trying to have a baby after our wedding reception this past August. For the first time in over 18 years, I went off birth control. I prayed that it would not be bad and that I would get pregnant right away. I prayed a lot for God to help me prove these doctors wrong and that I would not need another surgery or expensive fertility treatments. Month after month, my pain got worse, and I questioned myself and if I was making the right decision. I was reminded that my faith in God and knowing that He had a plan for me was stronger than anything and that I could do this. A week before Christmas, I found out I was pregnant. I was sent for labs and an ultrasound right away because of my past and to make sure that it was not stuck in my tubes. Everything came back perfect and normal. Now I've made it past my first trimester, and my doctor said as long as everything continues to look good, there won't be any extra appointments scheduled. I knew when I was 15 that God had a plan for me and not to listen to all those doctors who said it would never happen. I never lost my faith in God, and I never questioned Him for having to deal with everything that I have. I never accepted that this would be impossible, and I'm so happy I listened to God and not doctors, because now I have the opportunity to prove them all wrong. Not only was I able to get pregnant, but I was able to get pregnant without any extra help from doctors, without fertility treatments, and without surgery, and I was able to get pregnant only by praying to God. My grandma had passed away this summer, and I was really upset that I didn't have a chance to tell her we were going to try and have a baby. But I know that she knows and has validated it because I found out that my due date is the same day she passed away.